This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview. Joining us today is Rolf Gerritsen, the CEO of MetalNRG. Now, it's been a little while since we spoke, Rolf, but welcome back. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you, Mark. How are you?
Yes, very good, thank you, and thank you for joining us. Of course, there has been the ongoing legal case against BritNRG, which you have not been able to comment on so much while that's been going on, but a few things have now concluded. So before we get onto some questions on the current situation across the company, and the BritNRG situation, there has been some RNSs this morning. Do you just want to give us a brief update on what they are?
Yeah, basically, about a month ago, the judge filed in our favor because we put forward a summary judgment against BritNRG Limited and BritNRG Holdings LLP, and we won that case. And on the 26th of October, payment of 1.2 million roughly was due to us, and BritNRG BritNRG Holdings and BritNRG decided to only pay half of that. So they paid £540,000 plus another 16,000 in interest, which in essence is about, well, it's a bit less than half what the judge and the court order said was due to be paid. And unilaterally, they decided to withhold certain payments. And the RNS today was about updating the market on that particular point, and also that we have paid off a convertible loan note amount to GIS Global Investment Strategies, which was due to them, and therefore we've paid that off in cash, and therefore it won't have any further shares converting, which I think is also good news because they were, quite active in the market.
Okay, so you've settled that loan facility, so no more dilutive conversions of shares. With regards to the BritNRG situation, though, I presume that is I don't know if it's illegal, but it's obviously in breach of the court order. So what happens that? How can it be enforced that you get the rest of the cash owed?
Well, I my own personal view, and someone else made a comment to me which I thought was quite telling, and that is they're treating a court order as if it was a traffic fine. You're absolutely right. They are, in our opinion, in breach. A court order is something that you take very seriously, in my opinion. And interestingly enough, if we go back to the whole case that they presented, they maintained that the contracts that we entered into, referred to as the April contract, which was made up of 3 or 4 different contracts, they claim that they weren't one agreement. And during the summary judgment, they argued that point, and they lost that point because the judge clearly said it is one transaction and it should be considered as such. But that's what they're appealing on. They've presented appeal saying, well, actually, it's not one contract. It's separate contracts. And therefore, unilaterally, they've decided to withhold funds. From what I understand, they've put it in an escrow account with their lawyer. But still, that is unsatisfactory for us. And what we've done is we've presented statutory demand. So that gives them 21 days. The court order also stated that they would be paying 8% interest post-judgment. Prior to that, it was 2% above the Bank of England rate. Now it's 8%. So they're incurring that interest, and let them. They've now requested, as I said, the permission to appeal, but we'll see. We don't know if that will go through. If it does, we'll stand our ground. And there's a history here, Mark. We were brought to court by Rocco in Scotland. He lost that case. He was told to pay legal expenses. He's appealed that. We took them to court on the summary judgment. and that's the BritNRG and the BritNRG Energy. We won that case. They were ordered not only to pay the principal, but also to pay on account legal fees, and they will have to pay further legal fees once the fees are assessed by the court, and that will probably be in early February. And again, now unilaterally, they've decided to appeal a portion of the the court order. So, you know, it is what it is,
Okay.
but we'll deal with it.
So it's an appeal of a portion of the court, or not a full appeal, so to speak. And maybe that reflects why they've only paid you 50%. I don't know. But I mean, in regards to appealing, that is almost a given these days, that people who lose will appeal. What recourse is open to MNRG as a company and to enforce the actions?
In the first instance, as I said, we've already presented them with statutory demand. That gives them 21 days to pay the balance. And if they don't pay, we can go down the administration, the liquidation route. We've got a number of options open to us. And we will see what we do, depending on how they react. And also see the timing on hearing whether or not their appeal will be granted, because that's the first step they have to go through. They actually have to have the court say, yes, we'll grant you the right to appeal.
Okay. Okay, well, we'll wait to see what developments happen on that front. Sticking with BritNRG for the moment, can I ask, why did the company walk away from BritNRG when it seemed to be quite a profitable business?
I think you used the key word there, Mark, and it seems. And the reason I say that, and I say it with a smile, is that we don't know. Frankly, we just do not know if they're making money, if they're not. And it depends. If I believe what I see on social media, then it's a fantastic company. It's worth millions and making enormous amounts of profits. If I then look at what's registered at Companies House, I see a company that has put forward micro accounts for a year ending 2021, where they're showing a substantial loss and liabilities of about 1.2 million. So I don't know how well they're actually doing. But that's not the reason we walked away from the transaction. We walked away from the transaction because we had not sought shareholder approval for the transaction. And we had not done so because a director had failed to declare an interest in the company that we were transacting with. That means that the transaction we were allowed to rescind the transaction because it is not valid without shareholder approval. The point they were making is, well, why don't you go back to shareholders and seek approval? And it was made very clear to me, Rolf, you can't go and rescind something that has already been rescinded. So you can't rescind what's been rescinded. So you can now go back on that. So once we rescinded the transaction, then that was the course we followed. And as a result, there's been a complete breakdown of trust. We never received, as the MetalNRG board, any of the accounts from BritNRG, although requesting it a number of times. So the opportunity to rescind this transaction due to the fact that it was illegal was quite appealing. And also, if you look at the relationship between the parties, I don't really believe there's a solid relationship which is conducive to together growing a business. And I think for MetalNRG and for its holders, this is a very good outcome, because we're getting the cash back. We still have an interest in BritNRG, which we'll see what we do with, but we still have a percentage. And again, if you look at Companies House, every time they register something different, so we don't even know the exact percentage, because their filings are a little bit odd, to say the least. So from our perspective, I believe that we did a service to our shareholders. We followed a legal process. That legal process was extremely well thought through. The advice we received was very strong advice, and the probability of success was deemed by the legal team to be extremely high, and therefore we pursued it.
Okay, excellent. So worthwhile well, as painful and frustrating as it has been for presumably shareholders and yourself, worthwhile going through that painful process. We will come on to at the end the share price, of course, and how shareholders can benefit from holding shares in MetalNRG. I just want to get an update across the other projects, if I can, starting with Goldridge. Can you give us an update on the status of Goldridge and the next steps?
Yeah, Goldridge, we've been sitting a little bit in standby because we didn't have the money to take the next step. I have been in a number of meetings with Bart, our geologist in the States, talking to him about now getting proposals in for next steps, and those will be evaluated by the board as soon as they come in. He's kicked off the process. We're going to start looking at trenching, and we're looking at further developing Goldridge slowly. Surely, we're not going to rush into everything. Remember, the whole story is that it's changed a little bit from just the tailings. There's a much bigger picture available to us in terms of an opportunity to look at an open pit mine. And that will require some deep pockets, which means that there's a second strand to Goldridge, and that is that we're looking for a partnership who will come in and work with us to develop it and take it to the next stages, because it's going to require some deeper pockets.
Okay, so some trenching to start to find out what could be there, and then you are going to be looking for a partner, effectively.
We are also looking, again, I'm not, going to sell it on the cheap, far from it. There are certain conditions that we're looking for. If someone comes forth that will work with us and address those principles, that guiding principles that we're looking for on Goldridge, then so be it. We can have a conversation, and we'd be quite interested in having that conversation.
Okay. Any reason why the progress hasn't been as swift as you'd like? Was distraction with the imminent BritNRG situation?
Yeah, I put it down to that, and
Okay.
our own cash flows as a result
Okay.
of the problems we've had, the legal issues that we've had, have been quite severe, I would say. And if you look at the last 12 months, and you look at, well, a bit more look at where our share price was 14 months ago, you can see the destruction of value that has occurred during this lengthy and tedious process.
Okay.
And you read on social media that that we're destroying shareholder value. Well, I believe actually some other parties might have been quite instrumental in driving that and assisting with that effort.
Okay. But is that, just going back to that briefly, is that situation completed now? Are you able to move on from it, aside from further monies owed? Is the bulk of the ongoing legal situation completed?
In my opinion, we've now won a case in Scotland. We've won summary judgment. However, there are other ongoing issues that mean this is not complete. But in terms of the financials, I do believe that the bulk of it is complete, because we've had summary judgment in favor, and that means that they need to repay the value that we paid for the transaction originally.
So you can.
So I believe we can move on, but I also see them. Excuse me. I also see them trying to further delay the inevitable by taking additional actions, which they've done.
Okay, but at this point, you're more confident moving on, refocusing the company on its core projects and operations, i.e., Goldridge, and of course Italy, which was bigger.
Yeah, I am, Mark. Also, because if you look at it, we've now received £540,000 plus another 16 in interest. We're due to receive another roughly 16 in interest. We're due to receive another 640-ish, if I'm not mistaken, roughly 630 we're due to receive. We've got funds coming in from our VAT recovery, which is around another £210,000. So from a cash perspective, I can do a lot more than I could do previously.
Okay, well then let's just talk a little bit about Italy then. Of course, the waste to energy plant where MNRG have less of a operational role and it sort of more perhaps looks after itself. What is the status here? And we're likely to see the plant in operation in the near future?
Yeah, the status is that progress has been ongoing, and we had a bit of an update. I think it was last week, and hopefully we'll be making some announcements. But we're looking at COD by possibly the end of the year, if all goes well. There's one or two
Okay.
longer lead items, COD being commercial operational date. So if all goes well, it should be by mid-December that we get there.
Okay, and that will be the start of cash flow.
Well, that will be the start of cash flow for the operating company that then needs to build up its own cash
Okay.
reserve, et cetera, et cetera. But what it then allows us to do is it allows us to look at refinancing the asset through a completely different set of financials, which become a lot more interesting. And because, again, our strategy is to invest, it's like wanting to invest in a house that needs a bit of refurbishing. And what we've done now is we've refurbished it, and now we're either going to rent it or we're going to sell it while still maintaining an equity position. So that's the plan there. And that then allows us to recycle that money into a next project.
Okay, excellent. Well, just a final question, Rolf, on, of course, the share price and the, frankly, abysmal performance that's happened this year, fall of value there in MetalNRG's share price. Do you sympathize yourself with investors in MNRG, and how do we move on from this? How does the company start to generate shareholder value?
Look, Mark, do I sympathize with shareholders? I sympathize with myself. And the reason I say that is I am a shareholder. So of course I sympathize with shareholders, and it's been a very, very painful journey. I think we've been punished from a share price perspective quite substantially. If you break us down into our components and you match that against current share price, I think there's a huge opportunity on the upside. As I said, if you just take cash, we're probably looking at around 1.2, 1.3 million in the kitty that we can actually put to good use.
Okay.
Then remember that the judge during summary judgment also stated that our legal costs need to be covered. Is 100% of our legal costs going to be covered? No, but a very substantial amount will be. And again, there's further cash coming in there. Then you take Goldridge. We own 100% of Goldridge. It's a substantial opportunity towards a project which is much larger than was originally envisaged. We own an interest in Italy. We own an interest in LVG in Tanzania. We own an interest in uranium in Kyrgyzstan, which is currently on a ban. But you look at the pieces, and it's much more than, I think our market cap is about 900,000.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's practically shell value at that value, isn't it? Really, maybe a little bit higher.
Well, I don't think it's even shell value, because remember the rules for main market listings have changed. When we first listed MetalNRG, you needed a minimum market cap of £750,000. If you list the same company today, you need a minimum market cap of 30 million.
Okay.
So is it worth more than 30 million? No, but that's if you put a new shell on the market, that's the market cap you require.
Okay.
On the main market.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So
Okay, well, hopefully, as I say, the company can move on from this ongoing legal situation and get all the monies that are owed to it. And I hope to be catching up with you again soon as we can get more stuck into the operations of MetalNRG and what's going on as you start to refocus the company and move on and indeed hopefully build shareholder value. But thank you very much, Rolf Gerritsen, for that update, the CEO of MetalNRG.
Mark, thank you very much.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stopboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.